Bayede nina bethungu. Ngithokozile bantwana bekhaya. We're still out here having these conversations with you. Self-acceptance. What is it? What does it really mean, or what do people mean when they say accept thyself? What is it? Maybe somebody can drop me a message on my reply section. I don't know. What is accepting thyself? But one of the things that come to me when somebody asks that question, or maybe I find myself having that conversation with myself, no more gogo, no mkhulu, Thokozani. So one of the things that come to me, or that came to me once upon a time, is to say, for me to accept myself, I need to perhaps understand what is then this myself, or there has to be a certain level of content within myself that I am familiar with, acquainted with, engizaziyo. Kukhona izinto engizaziyo ngami that will also perhaps throw light to that level of self-acceptance. So in a sense now it's saying, say self-acceptance was something to acquire. Sorry to use that example, but something to acquire. So now, for me to understand the value of self-acceptance, or the product called self-acceptance, or the product called self-acceptance, it means then I would also need to understand the contents of the self-acceptance, okay, product that I am purchasing, or I am making a transaction with. So now, if now the one who is buying self-acceptance, or wanting the product called self-acceptance, you also have to understand what self-acceptance also has in terms of its content, because value will also speak to your own inner value. So in other words, whatever it is that a person would purchase, or a person would have in their living space, or their environment, would almost to some extent be a direct reflection of their value system. And this is where most of us find ourselves in a whole lot of stuff because of these value systems that are being challenged. But that's not where we are. Where we are saying is that, again, you have to understand what self-acceptance also is asking of you, so that you understand this transaction, if this is a contract between self-acceptance and whoever it is that you are. So now it is saying, Nami, for me to be able to trade this with this being called self-acceptance, it means I also have to understand my value. I have to understand what my worth is. I have to understand, because I could be wanting to self-accept something that is lower than what I am. I may be accepting something that is lower than myself, because I also myself don't understand my own personal value. So you want to also be clear on the personal value, and this again has nothing to do with ego-based ideology of these concepts. You have to learn to get out of that lower ego. There's nothing wrong with the ego, it's just that people have not grown enough to be able to work with ego. We mean no offense at that point in time. We can point to many offenses that have been caused because of that, male and female. Ego is an energy. It is not strictly for or no for others. No. So we're moving on. So we're saying now, you also have to understand your own value, the value of who you are. So that means for you understanding the value that you are, that means you have to understand yourself as a product. And if you understand yourself as a product, then you must understand the contents that makes this product very valuable. And this is also now, will be now what you would also put as your markup to whoever has to interact with this product. So we are saying now, in coming to self-acceptance, it does mean that to some extent you will have to do a bit of work, because most of us do not know the value of who we are. We do not know. We have not been nurtured in such a way that we do know, or we have a clear understanding of what your true value is as a being. And in where we don't know who we are as a people, and therefore we don't understand our value from a collective space. But here we are speaking to you as an individual. So we are saying now, for you to understand your own value, that means you have to understand the contents. You have to understand the contents. You have to understand that will make you a valuable asset, for example. Because if you cannot perceive yourself as the first asset, then what are you trading out there unless you are being a tool that is being used? Because you don't understand your own personal value. Because from personal value then will also stem your value systems. But that's a conversation of another day. But where we are speaking with you right now is self-acceptance requires you to have a reflection on the different aspects of how you have expressed yourself. As far as you can go in terms of your memory bank, if this is going to be a process for you. Some of you have been coming with yourselves along quite well, so it will just have to do with the reflections of bringing some of these core things that you have been bringing up as you are being grown, or njoban kula. Hey, slowness. So understanding self-value will also lead to an inevitable acceptance of self, because you know what you are worth, as it were. So this worth has nothing to do with monetary terms. It has nothing to do with the purchase power. However big brands may be out there, the being cannot be sold for any price. They will even tell you that they even undercharge who their true worth is, for example. But we are not in those kind of conversations, but we are saying understanding value, Bantana Betongo, is also understanding, it will be an inevitable, it will be a journey towards this thing called self-acceptance, or going into clear contract with self-acceptance. Because ideally speaking, you cannot accept something that you don't understand. You cannot accept anything that you do not have data or information about. If you are, then you are being ignorant. As the law says, there is no... Okay, it'll come back. But anyway, but essentially we are saying you cannot interact with something that you also don't understand. The meantime you interact with something that you don't understand, that means you have to inquire, you have to ask, what is this thing? So that you have all the right information before you make a certain decision or a movement in a particular direction. Because if you are not going to do that, then that means you are going to everything that you are doing half blind. And if you are going in there half blind, then consequences thereof will be the result. Life does not punish us, guys. Life does not punish us. Life did not bring us here to be punished or suffer. No ways. So we are saying to you now, self-acceptance as another energy in front of you is saying, for you to come into contact with me, you have to understand what it is that you have to understand about yourself. For example, you then, when loudly corner, would have to begin to ask the questions of who you are, where do you come from, how are you, unjani, how are you from a natural point of view in reaching. So we are saying now, it's at those points where it's saying now, if you are also not clear about those, the simple aspects, that simple aspect, who are you, where do you come from, who are your people, or what are your people's totems, what are they, what is their forte, what is your people's representation in terms of their etheric, spiritual representation, so that you become the physical representation of them here on the planet. Those kind of things. So now, if you don't have an understanding of those kind of things or those kind of aspects within thyself, then the level of self-acceptance will always be, at least from a blinded one, where now you have not even interrogated some of the programs that you grew up with, that you have now become or you have come to interpret those things as reality. Gandhi, there are other realities that are at work here. So now it is saying self-acceptance is at that point where you don't accept yourself with a sense of fear in that acceptance. Because when there's that fear, that means there's certain aspects of yourself that you haven't really come to or interrogated. So we're just coming in at that window when I'm in terms of how do we move forward? How do you begin to move forward in balancing yourself out, in coming to that state called self-acceptance? Because trust me, it's not an easy thing to do, and especially in a world where opinions matter most than your own voice. You may carry anxieties of wanting to come out into this world. I don't know who am I speaking to, but I think I'm speaking to myself because I'm looking at myself. Yeah. That's a joke. Bayete.